This week we're finally getting into builds, and we're going to start with a Prismatic Hunter build. Earlier this week we finally got access to the new exotic class items, and I got a roll that I was kind of bummed about until I started playing with it and I realized that it is insanely fun to use, and there's a way to kind of replicate it without using the exotic class item, which is really helpful for people who haven't quite done it yet. If you're looking to do it, join my Discord. I'll leave a link down in the description or a pinned comment, whichever one. It'll be down there. Join that. There are people there that are willing to help you get this exotic class item, so this way you don't feel like you're left out as a solo player. With that being said though, please subscribe as it helps me a ton, as does liking the video, as it will please the algorithm, and comment what you want for your exotic class item, and let's get into this video. For this build, you're gonna want to get your hands on the new exotic class item for hunters called Relativism, with Spirit of Inmost Light and Spirit of the Coyote. Spirit of Inmost Light comes from the Titan exotic Heart of Inmost Light and reads, using an ability empowers the other two abilities. This will give the other two abilities a large amount of ability regeneration. If this is an exact copy of the base exotic, then at 1 stack we're getting a 400% regen to our melee and our grenade and 25% to our class ability, and at 2 stacks we're getting 800% to our melee and grenade and 50% to our class ability. The Spirit, however, does not get the benefit of the increased damage that you would normally get from Heart of Inmost Light, but the regen is amazing to have. As for Spirit of the Coyote, we will gain an additional class ability charge. This is based off of 6 Coyote and basically gives us exactly what it does without the free Reaper mod they attach to it as of this season. And if you don't have this particular cloak, you can make do with just 6 Coyote. Just keep in mind you're not going to have that insane ability regeneration that we get from Heart of Inmost Light. For weapons, you can honestly use whatever you want, but I will make a suggestion that I have enjoyed using so far with this build, and that is Traveler's Chosen. This kinetic sidearm comes with the exotic trait Gathering Light. Final blows with this weapon grant it stacks of Gathering Light. Hold reload to consume stacks, granting melee, grenade, and class ability energy back based on the number of stacks. This allows us to play into that constant ability regeneration even further by consuming those stacks of Gathering Light and letting us start our rotation of abilities all over again. I also highly recommend pulling this from collection so it doesn't have the catalyst, so that this way it remains a kinetic weapon and you can feed into your transcendence evenly, whereas with this version with the catalyst, you're just going to throw your grenade and it is then going to become whatever your grenade element is, and that sometimes will mess up the transcendence, but whichever you do is fine. I just recommend pulling it from collection so this way it will remain a kinetic weapon. And if you don't want to use Traveler's Chosen, the new exotic sword Ergo Sum also comes with Gathering Light, so you could use that instead if you would prefer to use a sword for this build. For our class setup, we're going to be on Prismatic to make use of the class item, and for your super you can take what you want. I have been loving Silence and Squall since the buffs it got and the frost armor it provides with one of our fragments. We're also going to take Gambler's Dodge, so when we dodge we get our melee back, and this is going to help us keep our empowered abilities at ×2. You can take Acrobat's Dodge if you really want to, but we're going to be getting Radiant from something else. I also took Withering Blade as it has 2 melee charges by default, and I took Magnetic Grenades as I want to pair this with a Void Grenade for a fragment and our artifact. For our first aspect, we're going to take Winter's Shroud. Dodging slows nearby targets. Slowing targets briefly increases your class ability regeneration. Slow is super nice, and with 2 dodges and our melee, we're going to be freezing targets pretty easily without having to use our super. Plus, the regen we get from this, again, plays heavily into the whole identity of this build, and getting some damage reduction when we do the dodge. Next, we're going to take Threaded Spectre. Activating your class ability leaves behind a decoy woven from strand matter that draws the attention of nearby combatants. After taking significant damage or when combatants approach, the decoy detonates, dealing damage and releasing threadlings that will seek out and attack nearby foes. We dodge, we drop our clone while slowing targets. We then do it again, dropping another clone and freezing any targets nearby. Our clone pops, drops the threadlings, they shatter any target that is near them, and frozen. I've truly enjoyed this playstyle of just running into a group of enemy, dodging twice, freezing them, popping my own threadlings if I have to, and just watching everything explode. Plus, if you're in a pinch, the threaded specters are really good at drawing that combatant fire. It saved me quite a few times while running this Nightfall you see in the background. Threaded specters are amazing, and I will never ever talk bad about them. Next we have our fragments, and there's quite a few of them, so I'm going to try to get through this as quickly as possible. First, we're taking Facet of Hope. While you have an elemental buff, your class ability regenerates more quickly. We're going to have a lot of class buffs. We're going to get a lot of class ability energy back, allowing us to dodge more, draw threaded specters, and do our slowing field. Next we have Facet of Ruin. Increases the size and damage of the burst when you shatter a stasis crystal or frozen target, and increases the area of effect of solar ignitions with a +10 to mobility. We're going to be shattering a bunch of frozen targets. We're going to want the increased size and the increased damage. They're both going to play out a ton and really help. The ignitions, however, is really only going to be helpful if you're running a solar weapon that can cause ignitions. With this, I am not, but let alone the stasis part of this is honestly amazing, and having a +10 to mobility is really good as we want to get our dodge back quicker, so higher mobility is better. Facet of Dawn. Powered melee hits against targets make you radiant. Powered melee final blows make you a nearby allies radiant with a -10 to strength. Radiant is nice. It's going to give us a nice little bump in our weapon damage, and it's a subclass buff, meaning we're going to get that increased class ability regen from Facet of Hope. Next is Facet of Protection. While surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage. While Transcendent, the effect is increased with a +10 to strength. We're going to be running into groups of adds to get the most out of our dodge combination, so the extra resistance is super nice to have. Facet of Purpose. Picking up an Orb of Power grants either Amplified, Restoration, Frost Armor, Woven Mail, or an Overshield based on the type of damage of your equipped super with a -10 to recover. With our Stasis super equipped, we're going to get stacks of Frost Armor, and so far I am loving Frost Armor. Each orb will give us a stack, so it's very easy to get to the max stacks when running activities. This also counts as a subclass buff, so you guessed it, more ability energy from Facet of Hope. And finally, we have Facet of Dominance. Your Void Grenades weaken targets, and our Arc Grenades jolt targets with a -10 to Discipline. Our mag grenades are going to weaken targets, which is going to be helpful when it comes to our artifact, and it's really helpful against champions and bosses. It gives us the ability to just deal that little bit of extra damage. You can replace these fragments with whatever you want, but this is the combo that I have found that works really good with this build so far, and these are just, again, my recommendations, but you can use whatever you like. For our armor mod, starting on our helmet, we're going to take Kinetic Siphon for Traveler's Chosen. You can change this depending on your main weapon. Then we have a double stack of Dynamo, so when we use our class ability near targets, we get a reduction in our super cooldown. For arms, I am taking Grenade Kickstart. This is mostly because we have 2 melees and 2 dodges, so we want to help our grenade keep up as much as possible. I also took Momentum Transfer and Impact Induction for these same reasons. For chest, we have Charged Up and our Resist mods. Nothing fancy here. For legs, I just took Better Already, Innervation, and Invigoration, so when we pick up orbs, we start health regeneration, and we get energy back to both our melee and our grenade. For our cloak, I'm taking Reaper for the extra orb generation, Powerful Attraction to pull orbs to us, and then Bomber for, again, that extra grenade energy. We really want to help out our grenade here, as it is the only thing we have that doesn't have 2 charges. For our artifact, I'm taking Elemental Siphon, so I can make extra stasis shards when I use a kinetic weapon. Void Hegemony, however you want to pronounce it, so when we defeat a weakened target from our grenade, we get an Overshield. Radiant Orbs, so we get Radiant when we pick up orbs. Expanding Abyss, so our void weapons deal increased damage to weakened targets. And Shield Crush, so when we have Frost Armor, we get increased melee regen and damage, and while Radiant, we have increased grenade regen and damage, all playing back into the identity of this build. For stats, I've been running around with max mobility, which is unusual for me. Even as a hunter main, I don't like running max mobility, and then max discipline for, again, more grenade. I've been running a fairly high resilience at 70, and all my other stats sit around 30, and this has felt really good so far. If you need help with your armor stats, D2 Armor Picker is amazing, and I'll leave that link in the description. It's literally what I use before I make any of my builds, just to help me round out my stats. Overall, this build is really enjoyable, and it honestly feels like you have Transcendence all the time. time with the amount of abilities you can throw out without actually having to be transcendent. It is really, really fun. But with that, that is the end of this video. So again, please subscribe as it helps me out a ton, and also liking the video so other people can see this, again, helps out a ton, more than you can ever imagine. Don't forget to join the Discord if you're looking to get your exotic item, and of course, comment what you are looking forward to when it comes to you getting your own class exotic item, and I will see you guys in the next video.